Imagine spending billions of dollars on aircraft that don't exist. That's exactly what Emirates has done with the Boeing 777X. And now, after years of waiting, Tim Clark, the most powerful CEO in aviation, has had enough. He's looking at the one aircraft he once rejected, the Airbus A350-1000, as his backup plan. But here's the twist. The engine that powers it might not survive Dubai's brutal conditions. This is the story of how Boeing's dream became a nightmare and why Airbus might not be the savior Emirates hoped for. Let's dive in. The broken promise. The relationship between Emirates and Boeing was once aviation's greatest love story. As the world's largest operator of the Boeing 777, with hundreds in its fleet, Emirates placed massive faith in Boeing's next-generation marvel, the 777X. The deal was colossal, over 100 aircraft worth billions of dollars. But this wasn't just about buying planes. The 777X was the cornerstone of Emirates' entire future strategy. Flight schedules were drafted years in advance. Cabin concepts were meticulously designed. Long-haul route plans were sketched out, all banking on the unrivaled performance and capacity Boeing promised. The 777X was supposed to be unstoppable, a superjet that would dominate the skies for decades. Then reality hit hard. As early as 2017, industry experts began questioning the delivery timeline. Technical problems mounted, particularly with GE Aviation's GE9X engines, the largest and most powerful jet engines ever built. The situation worsened after the 737 MAX disasters as regulators imposed increasingly strict certification requirements. Every delay wasn't just bad news for Boeing, it was a punch to Emirates' carefully constructed business plans. At first, Tim Clark remained patient, but as delays stretched from months into years, that patience evaporated. Emirates couldn't wait indefinitely. They needed aircraft to replace aging 777s, to launch new routes, and to capitalize on surging post-pandemic travel demand. Clark's frustration became public. "We need aircraft that can fly right now," he declared, and that's when everything changed. The unlikely alternative. The Airbus A350-1000, once flatly rejected by Emirates, suddenly became relevant. This was the same aircraft Emirates had dismissed years earlier, the same plane they'd walked away from in spectacular fashion. Now it represented Emirates' only viable option to fill the gap left by the 777X. But why the change of heart? The A350-1000 offered something the 777X couldn't: certainty. It was already certified, already in production, and already proving itself with airlines worldwide. While it couldn't match the massive 426 passenger capacity, it excelled on the long, thinner routes that were becoming increasingly important in modern aviation. For Emirates, the A350-1000 transformed from an unreliable plane to a potential lifeline. It was the flexible tool they needed to continue growing while Boeing figured out its problems. But there is a catch, a big one. The engine problem. In Tim Clark's eyes, the A350-1000 carries a fatal weakness: the Rolls-Royce Trent XWB-97 engine. The issue isn't performance, it's durability. Operating out of Dubai is unlike anywhere else. Summer temperatures soar to 50 degrees Celsius. Desert dust is omnipresent. Engines face extreme pressure, constantly starting and shutting down within short intervals. Microscopic sand particles cause relentless erosion. It's a non-stop stress test that destroys engines far faster than in Europe or North America. Clark has been brutally honest about this. "We are not short-haul operators in Europe. We need an engine that can last through the entire brutal summer." Emirates sets a strict benchmark: 2,500 flight cycles before major overhaul. This ensures aircraft fly continuously, maximizing uptime and profitability. When Rolls-Royce delivered the Trent XWB-97 for testing, it failed miserably. The engine barely lasted 600 cycles before requiring heavy maintenance. Rolls-Royce proposed a workaround. Emirates could purchase extra spare engines and rotate them. To Clark, this was absurd, buying dozens of engines, each costing tens of millions just to keep planes flying. It shattered the entire economic model. This very issue led Emirates to cancel its A350 order back in 2014, one of the biggest shocks Airbus had ever faced. Clark's message was crystal clear. If the engine fails, the entire aircraft is rejected. A glimmer of hope. But the situation is evolving. Clark's tough stance forced Rolls-Royce to confront reality. The engine maker spent years improving materials, cooling systems, and protective coatings. They now claim to have solved the durability issues. Emirates wants proof, real-world data, numbers that are concrete and verified. Until that happens, the Trent XWB-97 remains the biggest obstacle. But early results suggest progress. The XWB-97 has moved closer to meeting Emirates' brutal standards. That's why Clark's tone has softened. "We could order 30 to 50 aircraft if the engine were ready right now," he remarked in March 2024. This isn't just a promise to Airbus, it's a warning to Boeing. Rolls-Royce holds the key, and the clock is ticking. Head-to-head, the ultimate showdown. Emirates faces a critical question. Between the giant 777X, promising yet endlessly delayed, and the A350-1000, ready but imperfect, which is the wiser choice? The Boeing 777X was designed as the heir to the legendary Boeing 747. It's built for ultra-busy trunk routes like Dubai-London or Dubai-New York, where hauling hundreds of passengers and tons of cargo is paramount. To call it a beast would be an understatement. It embodies the brute force required to link the world's busiest megacities. The Airbus A350-1000 is like an agile racer. Its smaller size might seem disadvantageous, but it's actually a strategic edge. This aircraft thrives on long-haul routes with moderate demand, routes where filling a massive 777X would be economically unfeasible. Here's where it gets interesting. Range. The A350-1000 flies 8,900 nautical miles, significantly farther than the 777-9's 7,285 nautical miles. This gives Emirates access to new markets and secondary cities, increasingly valuable in global competition. Economics. The A350-1000 is lighter, more aerodynamically refined, and delivers lower fuel burn per seat. In an era of volatile fuel prices and tightening environmental regulations, this advantage is massive. Maintenance costs are significantly lower too. It doesn't demand specialized airport infrastructure and spends less time grounded. Capacity. The 777X wins here with 426 seats versus the A350-1000's 480 seats in typical configurations. But capacity means nothing if the aircraft can't fly. Cruise speed. The A350-1000 cruises at Mach 0.85, matching the A380, while the 777X manages Mach 0.84. The difference is minimal, but favors Airbus. If you judged only by specs, the 777X should dominate. Bigger, newer, bolder. But reality is different. Each delay strips away its shine. The A350-1000, despite limitations, is already flying and proving its worth globally. If the 777X symbolizes overwhelming power, the A350-1000 represents efficiency and agility. One is a sledgehammer for the busiest routes, the other is a dagger, sharp and precise, carving paths into emerging markets. The master negotiator. Tim Clark isn't just an airline executive, he's a master negotiator. When he criticizes Rolls-Royce or Boeing publicly, it's never emotional, it's calculated. By expressing interest in the A350-1000, he accomplishes multiple objectives. 1. Pressures Rolls-Royce to prove engine reliability. 2. warns Boeing that Emirates has alternatives, and 3, signals to the industry that no manufacturer is indispensable. Clark sees aviation in the midst of global restructuring. Economic uncertainty, volatile fuel prices, and geopolitical tensions mean airlines can't survive on legacy deals alone. Flexibility, efficiency, and reliability are the new currency. That's why the A350-1000, with proven economics and performance, suddenly looks more attractive than ever. Boeing's crisis. For Boeing, the Emirates saga represents a full-blown crisis of confidence. Emirates is a reference customer, an airline with notoriously high standards. When a customer of this stature openly criticizes delays and looks toward rivals, the signal is devastating. It creates a ripple effect. Other airlines begin questioning not just the 777X, but Boeing's ability to deliver on any next-generation project. Cathay Pacific, for instance, is watching closely. Tim Clark's interest in the A350-1000 strikes at Boeing's core strategy. For years, Boeing positioned the 777X as unrivaled, a plane without direct competition. Emirates' move proves otherwise. Once airlines view the A350-1000 as a viable substitute, Boeing's leverage collapses. The financial pressure is immense. Boeing is already staggering under enormous losses from recent crises. Losing Emirates wouldn't just dent revenue, it would erode investor confidence and send stocks tumbling. For Boeing, regaining Emirates' trust isn't optional, it's existential. The A350-900, already in service. While the A350-1000 remains a story of the future, the A350-900 is already flying for Emirates. The airline has received 3 of the 65 A350-900s on order, marking the first completely new aircraft type Emirates has operated since 2008. The cabin configuration is luxurious. 32 next-generation business-class lie-flat seats with maximum privacy, 21 premium economy seats offering superior comfort, and 259 economy seats designed for long-haul efficiency. Total capacity, 312 passengers across 3 classes. The A350-900 plays a crucial role in Emirates' strategy. Its long-range capability and fuel efficiency allow the airline to expand into previously untapped markets. It supports Dubai's D33 strategy, an ambitious plan to transform Dubai into a global economic hub by 2033. With 62 more A350-900s joining the fleet in coming years, this aircraft represents sustainable growth opportunities and future market expansion. Fleet strategy. Where does the A350-1000 fit? According to Airbus's range chart, the A350-1000 can fly non-stop from Dubai to almost anywhere in the world. For a global hub airline like Emirates, connecting Asia, Europe, the Americas, Africa, and Australia, this capability is invaluable. But Emirates doesn't just consider range. They focus on replacing and supporting existing aircraft. Emirates operates 118 Airbus A380s, the world's largest passenger aircraft. The A380, with enormous capacity and superior cargo capability, has been central to Emirates' strategy. Any successor must offer similar performance and functionality. The A350-1000 and 777X are both contenders. However, there's a complication. Current plans. Tim Clark has stated that Emirates' 777X orders 35 777-8s and 170 777-9s are intended to replace all 118 A380s, not just the older 777-200LRs and 777-300ERs. This raises questions about whether the A350-1000 truly has a place. But there's still room. Emirates is implementing a $5 billion fleet upgrade program affecting 220 aircraft. Clark stressed that Emirates wants to take control of its own destiny, implying long-term strategic flexibility rather than dependence on a single manufacturer. The A350-1000 sits perfectly between the A380 and 777X. It's a logical choice to fill gaps during the transition from older aircraft to modern, fuel-efficient models. The verdict: what happens next? As of late 2024, the situation remains fluid. Rolls-Royce claims significant progress on the Trent XWB-97. Emirates wants verification through real-world data. Boeing continues struggling with 777X certification, with entry into service now pushed to 2026 or beyond. Tim Clark holds the cards. His next move will shape the global aviation landscape for decades. Will Emirates bet on the A350-1000 as part of its growth strategy, or will it continue banking on the 777X? The answer depends on three factors. 1. Can Rolls-Royce prove the XWB-97 meets the 2500 cycle standard? 2. Can Boeing finally deliver the 777X on a realistic timeline? 3. Does Emirates need both aircraft types to maximize flexibility? One thing is certain: the competition between Boeing and Airbus has never been fiercer, and Emirates, the world's most influential airline, will decide the winner. The clock is ticking. The engines are being tested, and Tim Clark is watching, waiting, and ready to make the call that will define aviation's future. What do you think? Should Emirates wait for the 777X or embrace the A350-1000? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the aviation industry's biggest stories.